Hello, I'd like to welcome you to Matters of the Heart. My name is Steve Evans, and I'm an Episcopal priest here in Savannah. And with me in the studio is Angela McCurdy. We both have been pursuing this quest to understand the mind-body connection and to see God's ways of bringing health, physical, emotional health to people by dealing with the issues that the mind-body science is telling us is damaging our physical health as well as breaking us down in other ways.
So we're going to be talking about forgiveness. We're in the second show of a four-part series on forgiveness. And this is just, I love this topic. It's enthralling.
Well, it's such a huge topic that we've got 4 half-hour shows lined up. This is the second one of them. And that's not even enough time to, we could talk really all day, but you wouldn't let us. So we're going to try to condense what we can into the time available. And let's just jump right into some of what the science is telling us about forgiveness and unforgiveness. We've got to look at the bad fruit and what it does into our lives. But first I thought I'd speak on the happy side of things. Our bodies are responders. And this is what science is showing us. Positive emotions, such as forgiveness and the joy and the peace that comes with that, actually releases endorphins, the natural morphine produced by the body. Natural morphine, not exactly morphine. But endorphins enhance our immune systems and have anti-aging effects. So if you want to be healthy and feel young, then we need to get in the flow of the good emotions. But we can't get into the flow of the good emotions if we're bound to so many bad ones because we haven't learned how to do the forgiving.
You know, you could make a lot of money in this culture today about the anti-aging effects from your emotions and bringing happy emotions, little happy pills.
The little happy pills. If there was just some way to bottle forgiveness so that you could take it as a medication, it would actually help you in every way. But it's something that we need to do. It requires an act of our will. It's something that God has given to us. He's given us a choice. Are we going to forgive or are we not going to forgive? And He's shown us His way. What's His way?
Peace, joy, but grace.
And what does He do? He forgives, right? That is His way. He's shown us that way. He went to the cross. He sent His Son to the cross to forgive us. The Father holds a heart of forgiveness towards us and loves us with a great and immense love. And they're asking us to do the same. Now, that's a good example to follow because they're the most joy-filled beings in the universe.
Yes, they are.
And yet, if we don't, then other things will begin to happen to us. So let me turn in this book. This is a book called In His Own Image, written by a counselor, Dr. Art Mathias from Wellsprings Ministry in Alaska. And he's gone through and studied the scientific literature. He says that hostility has been identified as the toxic component of the type A pattern. And historically, that type A, which is the coronary prone behavior pattern, has been the best known psychological risk factor for heart attacks. Hostility is the chief component, and that includes contempt and scorn. This new evidence is completely changing how we look at heart disease, he says. It is not all about cholesterol. I read that the last time, but here's another listing of studies. Excessive adrenaline secreted because of anxiety, worry, fear, bitterness, and other stressors causes the heart to beat faster and erratically. Also, 2/3 of all acute coronary artery events tend to occur when there is only mild to moderate plaque buildup. The culprit doesn't appear to be the plaque itself, folks. That's what he's saying. But the adrenaline surge from the hostility or the anger or the stressor that precipitates the crisis, and that's usually anger or rage. Wow. We looked at this the last time, and I feel like we need to put it out again and again because almost everybody else is focusing us in a direction that, yes, it will bear some fruit. But the truth is, folks, you can have really good cholesterol, but if you're bad at handling forgiveness issues and you're steeped in hostility and anger, you're at high risk, even if your cholesterol is good.
You know, we want to stress, we can read dozens of reports, medical reports today, common knowledge, it's becoming common knowledge that your anger does affect you physically. It's going to disrupt the normal physiological functions of your body.
Yeah.
But we're not listening. We're not listening. We don't believe it. I don't think it's, I don't know what it is.
It doesn't seem to be penetrating, and I find that stress is often low on the list. When I read magazines, they talk about weight reduction programs, or they talk about medications that can be taken, and they talk about going to the gym and working out, and they talk about music you can play to relax yourselves. But they don't often talk about the direct connection between forgiving people and getting the release that de-stresses us.
If we just simply look at it like this, I know I have a very good friend of mine out on the West Coast that when the weather gets bad, it affects her emotions. That she can hardly make it throughout the day. When the sun comes out, her whole emotional state changes. That's one small instance of how we're affected by the climate, by culture, by nature. If that affects us, what are we doing to ourselves with all this anger and unforgiveness? How is that affecting us emotionally? There are points out there that you can take a look and see that it truly does affect us. We're just not paying attention to it.
We're not paying attention, but the message is being put out there, at least in scientific circles. It's a mountain of evidence that's moving our way, like those avalanches that happen up in the North Pole where finally the thing breaks loose, the icebergs break loose and they begin to flow into the ocean. I was reading a scientific study today that was extraordinary. They were saying just 5 years ago when they first did research on forgiveness and looked into all the scientific research, there was very little direct connection between the relationship of forgiveness and unforgiveness and disease. And already they're saying now more recent studies are pinpointing it. This is how total and complete the work of science is becoming. They're not only delineating how stress affects our bodies right down to the cells, down to the organs in our body, and they know that pathway and they're beginning to explore it and penetrate it so that we can understand it, but they're beginning to delineate which negative emotions tie into the disease process.
You know, it's really important people hear this. Think of this, when you're in love, everything looks bright. But when you're in hate, everything looks dark. It affects you emotionally. It's going to bring you down. You're going to be tired. You're not going to exercise. You're probably not going to eat properly. It affects every aspect of your life. There is information out there in your own self that's telling you day in and day out that positive emotion is healthy for you. This negative emotion is deadly for you.
Yeah, but maybe we've tried to deal with it and haven't been get over the hurdles. Folks, that's why we teach at Healing Streams and help people like spiritual coaches get over the hurdles of forgiving people, get over the hurdles of releasing the past baggage, because it's so hard to do that on our own. And then I think another thing is we're just swimming along in a rapid flow of life and we're just looking for quick fixes and today remedies rather than allowing ourselves to do the probing and to do the deep work.
Because it is work. It is a lot of work.
It is. If you all, and no doubt many of you have done some forgiving, you've discovered that doesn't come easily. It's not something that our emotional life wants to do, and yet it is something that we need to learn how to do if we're going to get ahead of this rising tide of what stress does. Because as a pastor, and I'm not trying to quote any scientific studies here, although I will mention one, that stress is a huge aggravate to back pain. I was just reading that study this morning about research that was done that showed it's not the physiological problem much of the time that is the reason why people experience back pain, but it's the stress load they're carrying in their life. Now let me tie that in with unforgiveness. When we don't forgive and when we don't release things from the past, we carry with us the pain, the hurt, and the anxiety of feeling like we live in a world that can't be mended, and I've got to watch out and be on guard or I'll be hurt again and have more pain to carry with me. But when we learn how to forgive, we release the hurt, the pain is gone.
The body's not stressed.
The body's not stressed, and we're able to move forward in life. It's the feeling of a brand new life. And when that began to happen for me, just telling my own story, when that happened for me about a half a dozen years ago and I forgave a string of people at a level, I felt like God had coated my heart with Teflon. I said, God, you've given me a Teflon-coated heart, because now that I've learned how to forgive, I don't have to worry again about people hurting me, because I know I'll be able to forgive it. And from that point on, I was able to live a lot more free of the anxieties that go along with I could be hurt by this person. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Exactly. Being around friends and family members, especially some family members that I held unforgiveness for a lot of years, will actually cause severe stress, because you're around that person, you have anger issues towards that person, unforgiveness towards that person, and it's stressing you out while you're having to be with that person. And I found that in one particular family member, when we sat down and talked and I let go and we both forgave. It was like spring in the middle of dark winter. It was amazing. And the benefits are now, as life is short, we've got these years coming that are just wonderful to spend together with one another.
Yes. Isn't it great?
It's too short. It's just too short.
We can't say enough about this. The Bible has been thumping this issue from really before Jesus went to the cross. You can look in the Old Testament, and it's a message throughout the scriptures of the need on our part to learn how to give mercy and to release forgiveness. And so we're going to look into that a bit more after the break, folks. We would love for you to listen to this very soothing song, The Mercy of the Son, sung by a friend of ours, Cecilia Overby-Tomko in Nashville, Tennessee. And we'll have some information about the ministry. Then please tune back in, because we're going to want to talk in the second part of our broadcast to clarify for you what forgiveness is not. So stay